Jays are playoff bound beginning next Tuesday. Again, we're not sure where they're flying to. We think we know, but it's not official. But that's a topic for another day. The Jays got it done in an improbable year with incredible, unique context, and they delivered. Ross Atkins is the GM of that team that delivered. They are headed to the postseason. He is joining us now live here on Tim and Sid. Ross, congrats, man. How does this feel?
Oh, it feels great. I'm so happy for our players and for the organization. It's definitely a good step for all that have been involved. There's been so much work that's gone into. As you said, this year has definitely been unique. But even just building up to getting to the point where our team was more competitive and now being a team that's winning more than not. Has been fulfilling, and like I said, I'm so excited and so happy for that young group that has come together very well.
Earlier in the show, Sid and I were talking kind of about the perseverance of that young group that has come together so well, from Pittsburgh to Baltimore to being quarantined during a summer camp in a hotel to playing their home games in Buffalo. Like, is there a point where you weren't sure what the hell was going to happen this year? And then to be where you are now, like, have you had the time to kind of soak that in?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, not much, but when I do think about the resilience of our team, and you touched on it. They definitely have it. It's something we've always talked about in trying to identify. We think that it is difference making when you're trying to do something exceptional. That resilience is one of the characteristics that is very indicative of future success, and they definitely have it. They also have, belief in one another. Those two combinations of believing in one another, believing in themselves, and then being able to bounce back. We've had to bounce back pretty much all year. From as the things that you mentioned to also having some injuries and needing to get contributions across the entire 40-man roster, making additions like Alejandro Kirk and him getting a couple of very big hits for us, doing a pretty solid job, all things considered, behind the plate. Our bullpen has just been the definition of resilient. They have really, really picked us up, and we had a tough patch a week ago as we went on the road, and they bounced right back. And then I can't speak about our team without talking about Hyun-Chin Ryu and what he's meant, not only just from just what he's done on the field, but he exudes confidence. And he had a quote yesterday that I think just sums things up about what he's about, that he likes to win and he came here to win. And he believes in this young group, and I think he's really impacted this organization in a significant way.
Ross Atkins, GM of the Toronto Blue Jays, the playoff-bound Toronto Blue Jays here on Tim and Sid. You clinched in Buffalo last night. Did you have wings? Did you eat some wings?
I did think about, man, I wish for these players that they were in Toronto, just how electric that feeling is, and the energy that would have been in the stadium. But in time, this was one step in the process they will forever remember, and there will be many more memories to come.
Ross Atkins, GM of the Toronto Blue Jays, joining us here on Tim and Sid. Listen, I've heard a lot said about Charlie Montoyo and the job that he has done for this team, and I've also heard a lot of criticisms of some of the X's and O's that Charlie brings to the table. How do you evaluate what Charlie has done?
Yeah, it's something that when we identified, or we just when we first started talking about Charlie, what resonated with us was his success as a minor league manager. He's won a ton, and that doesn't happen by chance. I mean, talent and the pieces there are other pieces to the equation than just a manager, but he's been around winning a lot. And that was important to us as we looked at our alternatives and options. And it's been very easy to see why he's won a lot as we've been around him. He has very good instincts around players, around people, and he has very good instincts about the game and how guys, there's so much objective analysis in today's world, but there's nothing that replaces the ability to understand people and understand what motivates them and how to put them in position to be successful. And he does an exceptional job of it. And we've benefited from it. He's been, he's become not just a great decision maker in our view on end game. He doesn't go with all of the objective analysis. There's many times where, he hasn't used the clear objective path to making a decision. And we are 100% comfortable with that because his instincts have been so good. And it's just not that simple, right? It's just not as simple as knowing the math and executing it on that. And he understands it and uses it a great deal, has also been very open to, things that aren't traditional and making like the game that we had. It's running together a little bit, but I think it was it 2 nights ago when Robbie Ray started. Then we had to bring in AJ Cole into a very high leverage situation that he pitched out of, and then to Ross Stripling. And that was a very untraditional path to what ended up being a very well pitched game for us. And that's the type of decision making that is, you don't see every day. And I think it's because of his open-mindedness, his instincts, and his ability to use all the information.
Yeah, the 4-inning save, I think that was.
Yeah. That was a long one. Ross Atkins here on Tim and Sid. So after the game last night, Ross, Charlie spoke for a while, and he was asked what his message was to the guys after the win. And Charlie said, the pressure's off. Have fun. The pressure's off. You're in. How dangerous can a club like that be in this very odd postseason scenario we're about to see play out? If they genuinely go in there saying to themselves, let's enjoy this as much as we can, how many surprises do you think you can spring on teams?
Yeah, Sid, it's I don't know. I really don't. We're going to go one day at a time and just focus on how we can, put the best group out there each day, each night. And what I can tell you is that these guys handled pressure well, and they have earned the right to be in the playoffs going through the last week and how they played against the teams that we were playing. They've earned the right to be a team that I can't imagine anyone's going to be excited about seeing. These guys genuinely believe they can win. They believe in one another, and we do too. We believe in them. So, like I said, this is just the first step and a very good day for the organization, but we've got a lot of work to do. We're excited about the challenges ahead of us, and not just this year, but years to come, and feel like the organization is in a very, very good place.
In conversation with Jay's GM, Ross Atkins, some tough decisions coming up regardless. When do you guys think you'll settle on things like roster and starters, and how much of that depends on who you play, even though it kind of sort of looks like Tampa?
Yeah. I think a little bit will depend on who we're playing. And we have a pretty good idea of what we're going to do with our roster. And then as we work through it, we want to get also not just as coaches can pull back a little bit and think a few days out, as we've been so focused on the New York Yankees for the past week. Mm-hmm. Want to make sure that we do take the time that is allowed to think about any creative scenarios that we may have. But it's such a good situation to be in, to be able to think through that and make sure that we are maximizing that depth.
Ross Atkins here on Tim and Sid. The third starter is something that a lot of people are talking about. Do you want to see Matt Shoemaker again before you make that decision?
Yeah, it's a good question, Tim. We will. We're talking about that today, and I think you likely will see him again. And then we want to think about how to maximize all of those arms and be thoughtful about some of the things we've learned with the group that we have, where guys are with health. And Matt Shoemaker isn't ready to go give us 100 pitches right now, so that needs to be factored in. But it's interesting when the day we acquired Robbie Ray and Ross Stripling, and we had already acquired Taijuan Walker. Mm-hmm. one of the things we talked about was that would be exciting to think about adding those guys to a playoff roster, and how could we maximize that depth and put guys in really good matchup situations, put guys in situations where, if things aren't going great, that we have options to go to. And we feel like we have some pretty young, exciting arms that could complement them out of the bullpen. So, thankfully we do have Yunshin Ryu and Taiwan Walker as pretty solid options. And your question's a good one, and it's the one that we're discussing and spending time on now.
Ross, the other thing Tim and I kicked around a while ago when we heard that there would be no days off in the wild card round, the DS and the CS, was, did GMs know that ahead of the deadline? One, did you know that ahead of the deadline? And two, if you didn't know, aren't you glad you grabbed a bunch of arms at the deadline?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't certain. That wasn't.
But there were
crystal
whispers,
clear.
is what you're saying? There were some whispers?
Yeah. It was. Listen, this year has been a very different year. I mean, I'll tell you that, Sid, and understandably so. It has, the evolution of where we are today. I mean, if you think about it and just pull back and think about what we have accomplished, and a lot of work to do, a lot as we've entered these bubbles, and there's been some criticism, and then there's always going to be criticism, and understandably so, about how we could have potentially done things better. It's just, how could you pull it off perfectly, right? But to think that we are, here today, going into these bubbles, that we've pulled off with the moving pieces and parts and relatively minimal positive test and exposure, it's such a testament to the game and the players. I mean, the players have just done such an incredible job of making massive sacrifices and compromises for the love of the game. And it's been awesome to be around. But I know that wasn't your question, but it's understandable to me that we didn't know for sure that we would have 5-game series. And, we just knew we wanted to acquire pitching, and we were in a situation where we could.
Got it. Listen, we know that this wasn't exactly the easiest situation for you and Mark Shapiro to walk into after a couple of extended playoff runs, older team. And I know if it were me, I'd be spiking the football. I'm not saying that you guys were perfect. We've disagreed along the way, but does it feel like a little redemption after some of the criticism that you guys took in your first couple of years in Toronto?
Tim, I really am so happy for our players. And that's where all of my energy goes. I think about the hard work, obviously, of our scouting department, our player development department, and this game will forever be about the players and the fans. So how I am viewed, our decisions are viewed, I will always understand as just a piece of the puzzle. But ultimately what matters is our players having the ability to prepare, to perform, to recover, and then to ultimately have success. And we'll continue to put all of our energy and effort on that, man. And I am happy for them today.
Ross Atkins, GM of the playoff-bound Toronto Blue Jays, here on Tim and Sid. Obviously, the win, very good answer. The win last night, obviously, the Jays were trending pretty quickly on social media. Then Hurricane Caleb Joseph showed up. And Ross, obviously, his leadership behind the scenes has grown by the day here. He's kind of been out of sight of the general public. But for a guy, and I'm legitimately asking, I'm trying not to sound debaggy as I ask it. I'm legitimately asking you, why does a guy who's played 3 games for your organization love it as much as he does?
He's awesome. I just walked by him. I had a pretty good idea I was going to be talking about him. And I just told him, hey, man, I'm going to talk about you over here on a Tim and Sid interview. But he has a clear skill to present. And he's had a lot of fun with it over the course of the year. He's had, he doesn't want to be in that role. He wants to be playing. And he's just turned it into a positive. He's had a lot of fun just keeping our guys loose and enjoying their wins, enjoying their successes. And he's also very, very smart and extremely passionate about baseball. So it's not just, blowhard messages where, he's just having fun yelling some, positive things to our players. They're really thoughtful comments, and he's done a great job of it's not just those post-game interactions, the way he watches the game, the way he interacts with our young players, the way he's tried to help our young catching, the way he's helped our young pitching and our veteran pitching. He has an incredible passion and an incredible mind, and much more than just baseball, but his baseball mind is special, and he's been a great influence on our guys. It's a lot of fun. You guys would love him.
Oh, I mean, no doubt. And it also, like, as a guy who's over 40, it did make me smile internally, Ross, to see a team as young as yours give Ric Flair the proper respect he deserves. This young generation, Ross, you don't know. You just don't know. But I was happy to see it.
It's so funny. Good. It's so funny because that's such a valuable piece to any puzzle in pro sports, but it's also such a fine line. Like, if it's the wrong guy doing that, it goes the wrong way quick. Like, if you could bottle that, every team would want it, but it's so hard to find, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Tim, how do I follow that up? I think you're right. It really is, because it's not just the. You have to be paying attention, and you have to know the heartbeat of your team and the stakeholders in it, and then the ability to prepare and articulate those messages it is a very difficult thing to find. And his feel for it, the respect he has in the clubhouse is, from day one. We saw it from the beginning of spring training. I think you guys remember the drum solo, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But he really is. He's a very bright mind, and he's really been a positive add for us.
I don't want to Debbie Downer the interview because it's been fun, but I feel like I got to ask the question. What was behind the decision to make the changes that you did with Pat Henkin, Quantrill, and Ken Huckabee?
No, I'm glad you asked, Tim. It's so, really dealing with the pandemic and what that has meant to the Blue Jays and the industry, just financially, the impact that has had on us is significant. And then going through a minor league restructure where we're going to have less teams and less players, we had no choice but to make very difficult decisions. And so to minimize cuts, what our philosophy was to transition leaders to part-time roles in hopes that a year from now or 2 years from now, they come back to similar, if not more significant roles when we are in a more stable financial position. Each of those individuals, I mean, they're friends, they're people I think the world of, they're influenced well before I was here, and they'll probably be influencing the Jays long after I'm gone because of what they've meant to this organization. So they are welcome. They are invited back. It was more just a financial change to how they're compensated that will help us bridge the gap is our hope.
Appreciate the candor on that. As Timmy said, it was it's tough, but thank you for talking about that to us.
Yeah.
We'll leave it there, Ross, because again, just give our best to Mark. Congratulations to both of you. I know you don't want to make it about you guys. Some people in this town do. I don't know why, but they do. But congratulations to both of you for what you've done. 2015 seemed just yesterday when you guys kind of rode into town and took over this organization. And I know it's one step in many you want to make, but enjoy it. And we're all looking forward to what this next part of the journey looks like. Thank you, Ross. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sid. I appreciate that. Thank you, Tim. Thanks for having me on.